All right, welcome. This is my first Cooking with Mrs. Bodner video. So we are going to be making meatloaf. We need 2 pounds of ground beef, and I have 3.35 pounds. I'm using it all. So I will just I'll double the batch, not double the batch, do a batch and half a batch. So 1.5 batches. So, I'm going to put this in my bowl. I already washed my hands, just letting you know. I need 3 medium eggs. And so, we found in the chicken coop this little bitty one because I thought, well, you can use 3. And if we half the batch, it would probably be 1.5 eggs. And I would have just put 2 personally. But since they found this little one, I'm going to use that one. Now, I always put the eggs in a separate bowl. When you live on the farm, well, not a farm, but like we live in the country, so we have chickens. And you just never know what you're going to find. So you always want to make sure, that shell, it's not a baby bird. So I'm kind of worried about this one because they found it. Look how little. Ooh. Oh, well, looks good. All right, so that was my half. All right. I need 2 tablespoons of honey, but because I'm doing it 1.5 times, how many tablespoons do I need? I'm gonna let you figure that out real quick while I'm grabbing my spoons. So it calls for 2 tablespoons of honey, but I'm doing it 1.5 times, so how many do I need? Typically, I would not measure. I don't usually measure anything, but for this part of the video, I will measure everything. And then you'll have a recipe for really good meatloaf. And if you were one to say, I don't like meatloaf, you haven't had mine. Okay, so if you guessed you would do it 3 times, you are correct. Or if you just knew, that'd even be better. Now you wonder, why are you putting honey with meat? But it's really good. Really good. This is I made it for Mrs. Bierman's kids years ago. And because they wouldn't eat meatloaf, and I told her all about it. And I said, next time I make it, I'm going to make it for your kids. And she said they loved it. All right. Now we have 3 tablespoons of barbecue sauce. I don't know if you ever have purchased this. This is from the FFA, Elmwood FFA. It's only $5 a jar. They receive some proceeds too. It is the best. It even says Yummers. It's the best barbecue sauce around. So in November when they start selling, or October, I'm not sure when they sell, you want to make sure that you call or get, Jonathan sells, so get some of this barbecue sauce because it is the best. All right, so it calls for 3 tablespoons of barbecue sauce, but we're going to do it 1.5 times. So how many tablespoons am I going to do? I'll let you think. If you said 4.5, you're correct. Actually, 4.5 would be 5, but that's what I'm going to put in. Actually, really, let's put one more in there. We'll be using that again. So, best barbecue sauce ever. Only $5 FFA. All right, and then we need 1 package of Lipton onion soup mix. Now, if you're like, I don't like onions, you won't taste them. It'll be okay. And that's why it's kind of nice to have this. Ah! There will be no editing, so. Okay, maybe I need scissors. I gotta tell my one kid to go away. Go away. Okay. So it calls for 1 package. I'm doing 1.5 on the recipe. So how much am I going to put in? If you said 1/2 of this package, which I'm going to just pinch, you are correct. But for not to waste, I'm just putting the whole thing. It'll be fine. Now it says a dash of salt. Do you know what a dash is? Just kind of like a dash of salt, because there's salt in the Lipton soup too. And I need a 1/4 cup of ketchup. So I'm looking for my 1/4 cup, but I need 1.5. So how many am I gonna need? 1/4 cup, and if I had an 1/8 cup, what do I need? Well, for the sake of things, oh, I didn't get my ketchup out. The nice thing is with recipes, some of them you have to be very, very precise, which means accurate. I'm looking for ketchup. And some are very forgiving. And if you add too much or not enough, if anything, I add too much, but if I don't add enough, it'll be okay still. It'll work out. This one's like that. So it says 1/4 cup of ketchup. Putting it here. The only thing is, look at all that I wasted. So then I compensate for that. And then 1/2 of this, which would be 1/8. I don't have a 1/8 measure. Okay. Again, wasted a little. That's usually why I don't measure, but that's okay. All right, so there's that. Now, I put my ground beef in, I put my eggs, my honey, my barbecue sauce. I need a 1/4 pound of round crackers crushed, the buttery ones. So those are the Ritz crackers, and it's a 1/4 pound. They come in a pound package, and there's 4 in there, and they come in a real nice box. I bought mine at Costco, so don't have the example. But typically they come in the 16 ounce, because we know 16 ounces is in 1 pound. So if it is a 1/4 a pound, how many am I going to do? 4 come into 1 pound. I need 1/4 of the crackers. You guessed it, it's 1. However, we're doing this 1.5 times. So I'm gonna need 1/2 of that. This is the fun part. So you get to take all your frustration out on crackers. You can't do it too much though, because you might top the bag. But if you're upset or frustrated, you be the one to tell mom, hey, I'll do the crackers. And this is in lieu of breadcrumbs. All right, so I took 1/2, put it in. We can eat these with that good cheese dip that we make later on one of these days. All right. This has honey on it, so it's sticky. All right. So I just get a rolling pin and kind of just smash them. Until they're pretty ground. You can kind of see some of it. I must have made like a little bit of a hole kind of coming out. Maybe just roll it. And I'm going to flip it real quick So make sure I got the other side. These are pretty easy because they're so flaky. Okay. All right, so we have our 1.5 packages. All right, the last thing is to blend it. Now, I don't know how your mom does it. I don't know how your grandma does it. But how I do it, I swear we had to put mustard in. Hold on. All right. No, that's for later. I use my hands, which is kind of gross for me. Not really for the meat. But I don't like meat up in my hands and my nails. But it's just easier when I'm mixing. So I just do. And if you kind of like ooey gooey stuff, you might want to be the mixer because it feels like slime. But if you're a sensory person, kind of like me, you don't really like to feel all that stuff because it's cold and wet and nasty. However, it's a job that's got to be done. So maybe you choose to do that for your mom or grandma or aunt or babysitter, whoever you're making this with. Of course, you would wash your hands. Now, I told you I washed my hands prior to even starting this whole recipe. That's Chase and Chelsea. They must hear somebody outside. This is probably my least favorite part. And I used to do 2 hands, but then I couldn't touch anything to clean up, so I just do 1 hand now. And there's so much, it's kind of going up my arm. That's okay though. You just cannot think about it. Okay. Then you mix it till it's, pretty mixed. And then you can wash your hands. And get it out of your nails, because that's the worst. Always make sure when you are doing any kind of cooking or any time that you have clean nails. Like you scrub your nails. You never want dirt or anything under your nails, especially when you're touching food. And not just because of the coronavirus, but that's just good hygiene. So you always want to make sure your nails are clean. So if you're out there playing in the mud and you whatever, and you went and soaked in the tub, make sure you're cleaning underneath your nails, because you can get sick, especially if you bite your nails. All right, so now I could use my hands and put that in. I'm not. I could though. Sometimes I do. Just depends. I'm not going to today. All right, so I'm going to put them in pans. Typically, I would spray these pans because things stick, but because of the grease in the meat, it's not going to stick. So, and this really doesn't rise like bread, so I can pretty much pack it. Now, there will be grease on top, so I do not want to pack it too much because the grease will overflow and then your oven's going to stink and, all that fun stuff. So I kind of just make it look like that and fill how many I can up. I do them in the smaller ones. Now you can do it in bigger ones. It depends on how much time I have. It is almost 7 o'clock. So my kids are probably hungry. So if I made it in the bigger one, it's going to take longer. If I make them in smaller ones, it's not going to take as long. And I could even make them into like little meatballs, kind of. And that would take even less time. But I think we're okay on time. They ate a late lunch today. And that doesn't have to look fancy or anything. You just kind of throw it in there. Always make sure one hand is clean, like that didn't touch the meat, because you don't want to be contaminating other products. And then what we're going to put on it is a sauce. And we will follow the recipe, but I always make extra because usually you only put the sauce on one big large loaf. But since I'm making a ton, I need sauce on all of them. Yeah, you can walk through if you'd like.
Shoot.
That's Jonathan. He had walk through. They knew we were doing this, but I couldn't go through the front door, but whatever. Okay. Alright. And then when I am done, I will like clean my counter too, because if you saw, I did lose a piece of meat on the counter, which now it's contaminated. The counter is, but it's good hygiene anyways to clean your counter so you're not, or hygiene I guess, I don't know, good practice so you're not having germs and things on your counter. Okay, this one's not going to be quite as big, but that's all right. So with that, making 1.5 recipe things, we get about 6-ish. All right, so the sauce is 2 tablespoons of mustard. Which, how much is it really going to be, guys? Because we're doing it twice, or 1.5 times. You know what? We'll do this one. We'll double this one because I'll need it for that. So we'll double this one. This one might be a little easier than 1.5. We're going to double it. The real recipe asks for 2 tablespoons. How many tablespoons am I going to use? Think in your head. You guys are probably screaming it into the computer. If you want, like if you're figuring these out for real, you can always pause the computer, pause the video, and then then you won't get the answer until you're ready. Because sometimes I like to really figure stuff out and know. All right, so if you guessed 4, or you knew 4, you did a good job. Because that's what we need 4. And I'll post the recipe too. All right, so 4 those. And I need 1/3 cup of ketchup, and we're doubling it. So we would need 2/3. Now, not a lot of companies make 2/3 cup. Tupperware totally does. Love Tupperware. They make the 2/3 cup. Mrs. Duncan said another company did. So that's like rare, I think, but Tupperware has some good stuff. Now, if I run out, I have more. If I did go to Costco. Watch it splash on me. I think I can get just a little bit more out. Okay, that's done. So we're going to put our 2/3 cup of ketchup in there. So mustard and ketchup. Can you guess what other products are going to go in there, or items, or ingredients? What do you think? What else would be good? 1/4 cup packed brown sugar. So 1/4 plus 1/4. 1/4. I don't know where the camera is. So 1/4 plus 1/4. What is that? Jamie, do you know what 1/4 plus 1/4 is?
2/4.
2/4, which if we divided that out.
1/2.
Yes, good job. So 1/4 plus 1/4 is 1/2, and they want it packed. Now, like flour and sugar, we don't really pack in there, but they want this one packed in there. Woo! And I kind of packed it in here because I had to open a new one, so it's kind of messy, but it'll be all right. I'll clean later. All right, so 1/2. There we go. That gives us a really yummy, crunchy, sugary stuff on the top. Okay, and that is it. However, if I'm making it, which I am, I always put some honey in that part too. It doesn't call for it on the recipe, but I just like it. So, usually make what I like. Okay, so now you just mix it, and I'm hoping you can see this. on the video. Just mix it up. You guys are going to get all my recipes. That'll be cool. And then I have them all in this book. I can maybe make them for you. Make copies of them if you want them. I don't have them. Okay, so it kind of looks nasty, gross, but it's really not. Make sure. Okay, so mustard we put in, ketchup we put in, brown sugar. That's it. Okay. I thought barbecue sauce too. Sometimes when I'm making it, I put barbecue sauce. It doesn't call for it, but I just like it. So I do put a little barbecue sauce. I kind of improvise. I do what I want. Okay. Now, all you do is put that on top before you cook it. Bake it. And it gets like so bubbly, yummy. I mean, it's just like so good. The kids, they call it, when they were little, they called it Meatloaf instead of Meatloaf. And so they still kind of say, Mom, when are you going to make that meatloaf? They know what it's called, but they just call it that. Now, I was going to leave I might leave my phone on while it bakes and just put it on pause so that you can kind of see how it looks. Because, I mean, don't you want to know, like, how it looks and when we cut it? The only thing is, it might be too long, so we might have to do it in 2 sections, but that's okay. If that happens, that's okay. And so sometimes you have a little bit of abundance of sauce, but I don't waste it. It's good. It's good cooked on here. Now, those of you who are watching your carbs, I guess, probably not the best meal. It'll be good, but you'd have to put some points on. All right. There is that. Ouch. I'm going to put these on here. And then I'm going to set the timer. I'm going to do it for half hour. I have it at 350 on convection. And we'll see. Half hour. We'll see how they look. All right, while those are cooking, I thought we could peel potatoes for mashed potatoes. So, Pampered Chef has a really good peeler. If you're left-handed or right-handed, you can use it. I typically don't do this because when I did that when I was little, I'd always get my finger, and that doesn't feel good. So I kind of just pull it toward me and just, can you hear my Christmas music? Must be 7 o'clock. I can't put the clock away. It makes me happy. Anyways, so you can do potatoes ahead of time, but you have to keep them in water with a little salt. It doesn't have to be hot water, just cold water. So like if you're going to be making mashed potatoes when you get home from church or an evening out or whatever, you can cut them up, ready to go, put them in water, put them on the stove even, just don't start it. And then when you get home, all the hard part is ready. You just have to boil them. So you can do all that ahead of time, and they're fine. I learned that from my friend Stella years and years and years ago. And it works out. So for Thanksgiving, usually what I do is get up, get these all done, and that part's over with while the turkey is cooking. If you live out where you have animals, you can take these pieces of potato and put them out with the chicken. We'll put it with the chickens or whatever, so you're not wasting them. And you don't want to let them sit though. So if Mom says take them and get rid of them, do that. Or if you have a compost, area, you can put them in there. All right, so the rule of thumb is 1 potato per person. And so, without looking, if we have 6 people in our family, how many potatoes am I going to peel? If the rule of thumb is 1 potato per person, how many potatoes am I going to peel for mashed potatoes? If you said 6, you are correct. Now, do you see that? It's kind of gross. So either I keep peeling over it, which is the least amount of waste, or sometimes I get a knife and do it, which I kind of make a lot of waste at that point, but whatever. This is from Kohl's, and it's Rachel Ray, and it's called the Garbage Bowl. Even though I made the meatloaf in it, I washed it out and scoured it and all that. But it's like to put garbage in like this. So when I'm done cooking, I can just go throw it in the compost, or I can throw it in the trash, or I can throw it out to the chickens or wherever I want to throw it. It kind of keeps everything together, kind of keeps the counter neat. So after I'm done peeling the potatoes, I'll need to wash them because, you know, they were in the mud and whatever and picked, and so they're not the cleanest. And I don't wash them up beforehand because then I feel like my hands get slippery, and I don't want to accidentally pull the peeler down and hurt my hand. When you've done it so many times, it's just not a good thing. Now, some people can just peel with, my mom always peeled with just a knife. She would never have used those ever. But, you know, I'm not that skilled, and I don't mind using this, so I don't know. I love it though. She didn't have that opportunity. I don't know. We never bought one from Pampered Chef, but I have one in the camper even. I love the peeler. One last one. So it looks like we have probably 17 minutes left on our meatloaf. I'll show you how we eat our meatloaf with the mashed potatoes. I don't really make gravy when I have meatloaf, just because we use something different, but like if it was turkey and mashed potatoes, I would do that. I'd make like turkey gravy or whatever, but not today. So I try to get all these brown spots out. Not sure why we have so many. When you're buying potatoes, this is just a rule of thumb. Smell them, because if they smell like trash or yuck, then don't buy them, because they're just going to get worse. So I always smell, I know people look at me when I'm smelling my potatoes, but I smell the package because they have holes in them and you can smell it. So I smell it, and if it smells like they just were picked and they smell fresh, I grab that one. If not, I dig down until I can find a fresh bag. I don't know. That's just me. I don't like stinky potatoes. Ugh. All right, so I'm going to rinse these. And potatoes are starch, so it's kind of starchy stuff. I sometimes do my potatoes on this little thing. I like it. It's a convection. Convection heat. And I got it. It's like a stovetop. And I like it, so I do it on there. All right. You shouldn't really cut right on the counter because it could ruin it. I do that a lot, and I'm sure it's probably not good, but so I cut them like that. I just, you know, it doesn't really matter the size. If you want to cut them together to save time, you can do that. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't, it's like multiplication and addition. Doesn't matter what number's first, doesn't matter the size. You're going to add it all together. And that's kind of like potatoes. I'm like praying in my head, don't cut your finger, because that would not be good. The kids don't want to see that. But that can happen with sharp knives, so you just got to be careful. I've been doing this for a couple years, so hopefully I'm good about it. All right, so just cube them. This is what it means to cube. And then I'll add some salt and some water, and I'll go ahead and put it over on the confection thing. This will be one of our meals. I'm hoping to do some banana bread and talk about different measurements. We're doing chapter 13, and that's our math. Our Go Math is measuring. And I don't do metric. I do standard or customary. But, I mean, we can learn about that too. I'm not going to be teaching that while cooking, because that'll confuse me. But we can learn it through our lessons. Okay, once you get all your potatoes in, then you can add water. You add the water all the way up, like you immerse them. And you put some salt in there, just to give it a good flavor. Well water, but it's treated. If I was going to make like Jello or something that we were going to not take the water off, I would use my osmosis water, but since it's just going to go in the potatoes, it's not too bad. Okay, I'm gonna go put those on the stove thing and let them boil. Okay, the potatoes are done. So, and how you know they are done is you can put a fork in them. It goes right in, right through the bottom. I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna drain the water. Now I'm not pouring this into the sink. I'm pouring it into a strainer. Typically, I would just go ahead and beat the mashed potatoes in that pan, but I'm not going to. Sometimes you can't do it too hard because then the pieces are so tender that they'll fall through the holes. Okay. It'd probably be best to do it in here. Okay, so question. Let me see if we can see the mixer. No. I can't. Oh. Well. Oh, my little thing fell. Okay. Alright, so I'll have to improvise. One of these days I'll have electric from my island. Alright. It's not too bad. Alright. So, kids, a pound of butter. How many ounces? How many cups? Let's first do a pound of butter. How many cups? I'm going to let you think. You can pause it. So, if there's 16 ounces in a pound, and there's 8 ounces in a cup, 2 cups of butter. But we're only going to use a half a stick. Each stick is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tablespoons. That's each stick. So I'm only going to use 4 tablespoons because I like butter. And each stick is worth how much? Did we already say? How many cups is this worth? 1 stick. If you said 1/2 cup, you are correct. Now, I'm going to put some pepper. And some salt. I can't see the salt as well. So I like put it in my hand and I'm like, yeah, that looks good. I do a little more. Okay. I did do a fluid ounce. I don't know how much I'll need. But this is 1 cup and I did 1/2 cup. So how much is 1/2 cup? How many ounces? Well, if 1 cup is 8 ounces, then 1/2 cup is how many ounces? 4. So I'm not going to put it in yet, but this is the fluid ounces. Because it's fluid, it's wet. Like our measuring of the other stuff. All right. You don't want to put this on high. Been there, done that. And then it goes everywhere, which isn't good. Don't typically do it in this kind of bowl, so I might have to shut it off and get it down on the side. I may not even need any milk. With the milk shortage, that might be a good thing. I do have a pause button. For some reason I'm not using it. There it is, pause. I love this thing. It's Krups, Krups. Got it from, oh, whoops. Gotta hit the pause button again. Anyways, got it from Kohl's, my favorite. I got it when I got married. Not this one, another one. And it lasted all the way up to last year. We will be married 25 years. So, good brand. And if you know me, I use this thing probably 4 times a week. So, it really is a good investment. They're kind of expensive, but you get what you pay for. And you will get many, many, many years out of this brand. And the new thing is it has a timer. So I love it because when I'm making cakes, you know, I'll do it for the 30 seconds and then I do it for the 2 minutes and it gets the timer on. All right, sometimes I would need to add milk, but they look pretty creamy. I'm not going to add the milk. All right, so there's that. Now, I'm probably going to put these up with the green beans, just so it stays. Don't turn it on the microwave. Put a spoon in it, just kind of keeps it warm. Check on the meatloaf.